Very, very interesting turn of events with Alex Jones being in the hot seat and Roundup being held accountable for someone's cancer. I'm waiting for a very pathogenic anti-vaxxer to be held accountable for spreading disease. And I say this because we are now at a point where we are seeing and experiencing so many mutations, so many exotic diseases that are out there. And we are heading to a tipping point because right now our society doesn't understand how to fix the mutations. And there are going to be products out there that are going to trigger somebody's, I would say, somebody's backdoor trigger. And then they're going to be, then that product or that food or that supplement or that cannabis is going to be then directly responsible for somebody's death, because we just set a precedent with Monsanto. So Monsanto took one for the team for actually the government. Yeah, they'll pay $81 million because the jury found them directly responsible for triggering cancer. And so Roundup is no different than a pathogenic person who is sick, who is mutated, who then doesn't get a vaccine. So if you don't get a vaccine and you're mutated, and now you're sick, and now you're spreading it, guess what? Somebody comes into contact with a very pathogenic person who has a weak immune system, who has been vaccinated, yes, and they catch your disease. And they do a titer test on the person who carries that disease, as well as a person who was afflicted, if they can even find them in the same room or establish and prove that they were in the same space. And then, yes, I can now see lawsuits happening. So we have the pro-vaxxers who will find every way to pin and blame the anti-vaxxers, and they would have a case. They would totally have a case, because we wanted to sue Monsanto for his Roundup, when it's all it is just elements. But the reason why people are more sensitive is because they haven't fixed their mutations. So the more mutated our society is going to be, the more litigious, the more we're going to blame. And now we have science to now look at titer tests to see and test. And so this thing with, I'm wondering now with Alex Jones being in the hot seat and everything, because he is whipping all of his audience, including me, okay, believe me, I was one of them, into a bullying tactic against the Newtown victims. And I know a lot of people on my Facebook still who are in the chemtrails world who don't think that Newtown happened. And I actually had a friend that was in Connecticut, in Newtown, and they knew for a fact it actually happened. Oh, but no, the Alex Jones's crowd and all the conspiracy people are like, oh no, they're all crisis actors, are all doing this. Totally unstable people. And I see it now as I look, from a different perspective. And they are getting people whipped into action to then go and bully people who said that they had children that were part of that. And then someone dies because they've been bullied. I was bullied. I was being held accountable for Bruce Wilmot's death. And then guess what? My juice was tested. It wasn't antibiotic. It was probiotic. So do you think maybe I have a case? Anyone that's a lawyer out there, would you like to represent me to go after Patheos unless they retract everything that they're saying, they're infirmant? BuzzFeed, Newsweek, Daily Mail, for them inferencing that I was the one responsible for Bruce Wilmot's death? I would totally, if you can find a way, and hey, if any big high-powered lawyer that wants to take on some pro bono work that would then change how the media rolls their stories out, I'm all yours. I'm all freaking yours. Because Erin from Health Nut News, she's going to be on the chopping block at some point. Oh, I'm sure she will be, because she's making an inference that the FDA was responsible for some of these holistic doctors' deaths. She is whipping everybody into thinking that the FDA is killing all the holistic doctors. Oh, I hope the mainstream will go after Erin from Health Nut News, because she is also part of responsible of all of this bullshit going on the internet, and then people attacking me. And all that she's doing is she's trying to get everybody to go buy her husband's pills, powders, and supplements. Okay. So see, this is the one article that I post or I screenshotted on from her site. And these are just the headlines. It's not even the full article itself. Thanks, Susan. Let me read this. So what does she say? She says, as you know, the first holistic doctor in our series, but not this doc, was found dead after the FDA raided his office looking for GCMAF. They're still on the GCMAF. All it is an immunotherapy. That's all it is. That's not revolutionary. That's just another way of science messing with the negative elements and using your own body against you. Okay, he was a hero. It has been turned, it was a homicide and not a suicide. Oh, okay. So you're saying that there's the FDA? You're saying there was an FDA that did it? See, here's the thing. She's not may say it in so many words. But what she's doing is she's inferencing that somebody in the FDA, in big pharma or something, is so afraid that all of these revolutionary cures are coming out, and so they got to go and kill off all these different doctors. That's no different than what Alex Jones is doing as far as the Newtown and all the other false flag things that he's whipping everybody into action over. Okay? That's no different. And it's no different than what Patheos, Newsweek, Daily Mail, BuzzFeed did to me. Dr. Phil, he played with it. He didn't say I was responsible for people's death. He was just trying to kind of look at both sides and then really glorify, obviously, the Jeff Holiday people, and then not necessarily say, hey, there is some legitimacy to your stuff. No, he capitalized on thinking that all I did was just give people salt and that's it. Not the fact that it's actually an electrolyte and it's part of the balance of the body. But he didn't say that I killed anybody. So, he's not really, part of all this. So I wouldn't necessarily go after Dr. Phil. But there are articles out there, bloggers and people that are saying, oh yeah, Jillian's responsible for somebody's death. Yeah. Totally unsubstantiated. And my stuff is an antibiotic. Okay. So with all of this happening, with the Alex Jones being under fire, I'm waiting for Aaron from Health News being under fire, but that probably may not happen, but it might, because she's whipping everybody into action too. And I know the mainstream out there that aren't necessarily bad. I mean, they have their issues, but I don't think the mainstream is that bad. They've kept us going and allowing me to do this research this far. So I don't think the mainstream is that bad. However, they can't legislate morals and they can't force people to eat healthy. So they got to deal with the lowest common denominator. But they're going after Alex Jones for all this bullshit. And then someone dying. These kids that are bullying each other. Like that girl that was sending texts to her boyfriend. And I watched that whole show. And I forget what it was, but I was watching on TV or something. But the girl that was texting her boyfriend to go and kill himself. Okay? And this guy was already suicidal. And then she kept giving him more pressure to do it. And he was already weak. And then she kept pressuring him to go and commit suicide. And so then finally, when they actually looked at all the texts, because at first they didn't suspect her, but when they got a hold of his phone and then her phone and saw what was exactly going on, they saw that her texting, even though she didn't kill him, he committed suicide, her pressuring him to do it, even when he said he didn't want to do it, she kept saying, kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself. And then there you go. Now she's going to go to jail for maybe a year or two or something, or 14 or 15 months. Because she was indirectly responsible for that person's death because of her urging him to go and kill himself. No different than getting your audience to go after and bully another person to where if I were to die and commit suicide and they find out that my shit isn't antibiotic, it's probiotic, oh my God, my family would have a case against Daily Mail, Patheos, Jeff Holiday, all the haters that are out there, they're talking smack about me. And then now the pro-vaxxers have a case against the anti-vaxxers because they're spreading disease because they're sick. Anybody that's sick out there, you are going to be subject to the same rules as Monsanto. If you have been deemed that you have a communicable disease like measles and you're told that you're quarantined for the next 30 days, okay, the next 30 days, and you break your quarantine and you go into a public place and then somebody gets sick from you, you know what? That person would have a case against you. So now you guys going after Monsanto because of the Roundup and whatever else, you are now putting yourself in a position to get sued by the pro-vaxxers or somebody that is already vaccinated and they're exposed to an unvaccinated person, and this unvaccinated person has a mutated disease that then infects the whole herd. Yeah, that sucks, Tiffany. That really does. Okay, so we're already setting a precedent with going after Roundup. Roundup can afford it. 81 million here, 78 million here, or whatever. But there's a bigger picture going on. Pandora's box is opening herself wide open. And Jilly Juice people are not even going to be a part of it. I'm not going to get sick. I'm not going to be pathogenic. You can never pin anybody's sickness on me. You know why? Because I don't get sick. I have been around my husband who was sick. And he stayed home for the few days that he needed to. Okay? But I've been exposed to him. And my body was able to take on that new pathogen, kill it, and reverse the mutation so it doesn't mutate into another disease. And then guess what? Nobody is now going to be exposed to any sickness I ever had, because guess what? The sickness is out. I blew it out of my nose overnight. Okay? So, you know, those of you that are dealing with stuff, you just got to do the J juice. We've all been bullied by different people. And now it's time for you to now make a choice. Get the hell out of your situation, or figure out how to then reverse the mutation so you can be strong enough. Okay? That's all I can say. Because we live in a mutated society with very pathogenic people. Even though they're vaccinated, they're still pathogenic. But we are opening up a Pandora's box by being litigious against Monsanto, because you think that your platform is going to be revolutionary in the organic GMO. But guess what? The anti-vaxxers and the organic people are going to shoot themselves in the foot because they don't truly understand science or their own bodies. And so now we are giving all these lawyers a platform. And so if you're sick, regardless of how you came to sickness, if you are sick, you are a walking Roundup. You are a walking communicable disease. You are a walking pathogen. Okay? And when you're a walking pathogen, you are now a weapon of mass destruction. That's how they're going to look at the anti-vaxxers. See, this whole thing with the anti-vax and the whole thing with the GMO versus organic, it's biting them in the ass. And it's going to bite all of these naturopathics like Natural News. I'm hoping that Natural News will be held accountable. Mike Adams will be held accountable for all the fear that he's inducing out there. And then promoting all the antibiotic like turmeric and lemon and all this other bullshit that's all over Natural News. So Alex is going to fall. This is just the start. And then Monsanto has been held accountable for what, it's not his fault or their fault, but they just set a precedent that we can't reverse. It's out there. So anyone that even falls in the same category as Roundup, pathogenic, communicable, told to be quarantined, and they break their quarantine and somebody gets sick because of their exposure, oh yeah, lawsuits up the ass. Just wait. Just wait. It's going to happen. So anybody on J-Juice, get on it, get it quick, and reverse your issues. Don't get away from the politics, the activists. All that stuff is a waste of freaking time. Okay? Hi, Sugar. I see you. My dog is the healthiest dog ever. She's the healthiest dog ever. I know, I hear you, Sugar. Go lay down. Go lay down. Sugar, lay down. Come down. Come here. Come here. Okay, but I'm telling you, I knew that this whole thing with Monsanto was going to set a precedent that is not going to be favorable to the people who are against Monsanto. It's going to bite you in the ass, because the more that you accuse someone and demonize somebody, you're going to have 50 million fingers pointing right back at you. Because when you actually take care of yourself and your family, and you build your bubble around you, which is all of the right elements, which is J juice, and you reverse your mutations, and you understand how your body works, understand J juice, it's not going to matter what Monsanto does. So now, Monsanto had the flipping warning on the label, warning aviso, but now they have to put that this could cause cancer because there's so many mutated people that have cancer. So they have to play to the ignorant masses. They're like, oh, it's not my fault that I'm sick. It's everybody else's fault. So now they got to cater to the lowest common denominator and actually put on there, well, potentially, not everybody, but some people could trigger lymphoma, could trigger this, could trigger that, could trigger whatever. Because this case set a precedent, which means that anybody else that's pathogenic, that doesn't get their vaccines, that is a walking sick person, a walking mutated person, and which means that, hey, if you have a fever they're doing that in China. I think they did that in China, where if you had a fever higher than this, you couldn't travel on the plane. Yeah, it's coming to that. If you don't take care of yourself and you don't know what you're doing, and then you go to your doctor, and the doctor says, hey, you need to take the kid to the hospital because it could be a meningitis or something, and then they don't do that, yeah, you're seeing the Arizona police going to come kick down your door because they don't know what the hell you know or don't know. We have so many people that don't know shit about anything. Okay, so you're only going to see the state come down harder on those that claim they know something when they really don't. And then you're going to claim, oh yeah, we're in the Hitler town. The government will only come down on people who don't know what they're doing. If you know what you're doing, you're not going to trigger government. If you know the laws, you're not going to trigger the government. And any unjust laws will get countered. Don't worry about the unjust laws. But if you know all the laws, you won't believe all the stories, and you won't trigger government. So if you trigger government, then it means that you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and then you go see some professional that you don't even take their advice, and you go home and you don't do what you're supposed to do. Yes, you're going to trigger government. They'll be right up your ass. And then you're going to wonder why. So it's very interesting how my my change of my thought process in all of this is so timely with all of these people who I used to revere, who I used to follow, the conspiracy world. How am I changing now, realizing that there's a reason for vaccines, there's a reason for all these different things, the CDC, the FDA, and all this stuff. And then the whole thing with with the meat and the vegetarians. Well, I put it out there at first. I'm like, okay, maybe we're supposed to eat vegetables only, but then people have eaten meat in the past, back in the caveman days, and I'm thinking what? Maybe the caveman days was when we were so mutated that all we could do was just live primal, have sex, eat meat, and then start fires and live in caves. And that's it. That's the baser instincts. That's when you're at a baser instinct, living out of baser instinct, it's almost like a lower form, because you're not thinking intellectually in a wider type of stance. You're always just surviving. And right now, most of our society is just surviving, living off their hormones, always reacting to their hormones. And so when you get that mutated, and then you're at a point where you're just killing animals, and you want to get away from the government, away from anything that's trying to help you, and then you go live off grid because you don't want to pay mortgage, you don't want to pay tax, you don't want to pay anything, and then obviously you can't, because you could live off a grid, but then you won't be able to live indefinitely and reverse your mutations. So you don't get the salt because you're away from society, because it's not like there's a salt mound out there, Oh no, you're just going to be living off your fruits and your vegetables, and maybe eat your meat, and the parasites and the fungus and all the elements will then start degrading you. And then, yes, I can see then evolution happen over time, generation to generation, will eventually then revert back to the caveman. I see caveman today in our society, okay? And maybe that's where the meat came from, is from a mutated, very mutated Neanderthal population that could have been a representation of the end of Atlantis. Maybe the people of Atlantis were supposed to be thriving, and then they lost sight of how to keep healthy, and they'd worked with all the different negative elements like antibiotics. And then after every generation of doing antibiotics in the mutated generation, they ended up to be a Neanderthal or a Australopithecus or Homo erectus or Homo habilis. Okay, maybe all of these Homo whatever is the de-evolution of humanity. Maybe we're supposed to be where we are today, like me, like some of you who are on the J-juice, or like society today for the most part. But since we played in the wrong elements years and years ago, we then regressed. I don't even say regressed, we just were at the behest of the mutations, of the parasites, the fungus. Because I remember, just look at my pictures a couple years ago, you guys. You see my before and after pictures. Okay? I looked a little bit Neanderthalic. Okay? And there are some indigenous populations that do look like they're from back in the caveman days. And then, our society is trying to preserve them, but maybe they should be coming up to speed, because maybe they don't deserve to die. Maybe they deserve to have knowledge, to have advanced medicine, but medicine that's not going to kill us, because right now that's what's going on, is that we're at a point where we're becoming so advanced in manipulating our hormones that we keep violating the laws and we keep reproducing. We're going to end up like a caveman and then eventually go extinct. So it seems like that there was modern man with agriculture, and then you had the caveman, the really mutated people. And they were cohabitating, but the really mutated people went extinct, and then modern man was still able to procreate on relatively healthy kids, and how we got here today. But we keep going the way we're going with inducing fear, playing with antibiotics, playing with all the negative elements, not understanding chemistry, not understanding the formula to life. We're going to end up to be Neanderthalic, Homo habilis. Because of violence, when somebody is violent, like you look at all the violence in our society. When you're going straight to violence, that is a Neanderthal-like behavior. When you can't use your words to get a point across, when you have to hit somebody, when you have to cut somebody up, when you have to do all these things that are horrific out there, that comes from a very primal type of thing, and it's a mutation. I mean, the cavemen, they were killing animals, they were killing each other. And who's to say what kind of crimes were committed back in the caveman days? But they weren't exactly highly evolved. They weren't exactly expanding their vocabulary. They were grunting. How many criminals out there that look like they're caveman? Like major criminals. Go look at some of the mug shots out there. Okay? So, you fall into all of this crazy bullying tactics. That's no different than a caveman trying to go after his meat so he can survive. Alex Jones looks like a caveman. Okay? Highly mutated. You know where he got his information from? YouTube and 4chan. I still have people on my Facebook that still believe in 4chan and still believe in a lot of these YouTube videos where you have very professional videos that almost seem like they know what they're talking about, that have a very specific purpose to get people to think and believe in a certain way, and then also sell things, merchandise, sell home protection equipment, selling whatever it is that would fit in the 4chan type of model. And they're always into some new thing like, hey, there's the Social Security and Treasury accounts, and what's the next thing? There's always some kind of lucrative business deal, get rich quick type shit you see all over Facebook. And people jump from one get rich quick scam scheme to another, and another, cure out there, whether it's drinking urine or fecal transplants or whatever. But you're seeing humanity, if you're not doing J juice to then reverse the mutations, you are going to revert back to the caveman days, believing everything that's out there, doing no kind of critical thinking, really truly, reacting to your environment instead of being proactive. And some of you aren't doing J juice at the level that you should, so you're falling for all the bullshit, all the shit that's out there. Susan, if you have an issue, you need to call the police, okay? If you have an issue, you need to call the police, all right? There's nothing that I can do for you. I know you're looking for support, but there's nothing that I really could do for you except to do the J juice and put yourself in a place that is safe. And what's going to happen is those that don't put themselves in safe places, those that will still react to their surroundings, those that will play victim. And I'm not trying to get on your case, Susan, but those that play victim, that are victims, very mutated, and they are just as bad, okay, if not worse, than the ones that are perpetrating this, because they're putting themselves in this position. Now, maybe you have no other resources. I don't know what else to tell you, but there are services out there for people to leave abusive situations. You need to then figure out, if you're going to do J juice, you need to put yourself in a good situation to support your situation. So now the ball is in your court. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to deal with any drama, Susan. I'm not dealing with anybody's drama. I really am not. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to counsel you. I'm not trying to, you are wholly responsible for your situation. It's nobody else's fault but your own. And I hate to say it, but I'm not anybody's counselor. I'm not trying to save anybody. You are wholly responsible for if you live or you die. And if you want to live, you'll put yourself in position to live. If you want to die, you'll find every excuse why it is somebody else's fault, whether it's your brother's fault, your sister's fault, somebody else's fault. I don't want to hear the excuses. You'd have the resources at your disposal. Call the police, do whatever it is, and if you say that you couldn't for whatever reason, then you don't need to tell me, because there's nothing I can do for you. So this is why I don't get involved with people's situations, because I'll tell you what, there is so much drama out there in the world, and people will pull you into their shit all the time. That's why I don't do private messages. That's why I don't do any personal consultations. That's why this whole protocol is about personal accountability. It's not anybody's fault why you're in your situation except for you. You are responsible for your situation. Either you take responsibility or you blame somebody else and fall into the category of then on that death Neanderthalic trajectory. That's as simple as that. Okay? But there are a lot of government resources out there that people can use to get themselves in a better situation to where then they can go and heal the way they need to and live peacefully. And if you don't know what they are, then you call up the police department and ask them what resources are available for somebody that's in an abusive situation. Oh yeah, we have domestic violence shelters, homeless shelters. Well, domestic violence shelters. I've done it at some point for a minute. Other people have called up domestic violence shelters to get out of a situation, and then they get themselves figured out, and then the shelter will help them get them relocated into a different situation. So no matter what, everybody has the resources to get themselves figured out. Okay? So I'm not going to be not entertained, but I don't want to hear people's stories about what abuse situations they're in. I don't want that. I want to let you guys know that we are headed towards a very litigious society because we have so many mutated pathogenic people. And either you reverse your mutations and you never ever get sick, and so no one can hold you accountable for getting them sick, and then you'll actually make good choices and be around good people, and you'll never have to deal with drama or the government. So I'm just showing you guys the dominoes are falling, and Roundup was a start. That's a Pandora's box that opened up that probably never should have, but it's going to. Because those self-righteous people that want to blame somebody and hold them accountable, want to hold somebody accountable for their situation, well, guess what? They're going to have so many fingers pointing back. So, hey, that guy that won 81 million, who has all this cancer disease and chronic illness, he better stay at home. If he's out there in the public, mixing around mutating viruses and stuff, you can hold him accountable and sue his ass for 81 million for getting your friends and family sick. I'm telling you guys, as soon as you win a bunch of money and you're saying, oh yeah, Roundup was the one that caused my issues, and then you're a walking pathogen yourself and you're walking around not quarantined, because people who have cancer, disease, and chronic illness are mutating pathogens out there. They are the weapons of mass destruction. And if we're going to set that precedent, or if we're going to hold somebody else accountable for our diseases, then it means everybody that's sick and pathogenic and mutated will be held accountable if they can make that connection. Which means that, yes, we're headed into a papers, please. Are you vaccinated or not vaccinated? Are you vaccinated? Okay, great. Then don't worry about it. You're not, I mean, if you're sick, then stay home. But if you're not vaccinated, then yes, you have a chance to be very pathogenic. And then guess what? If you're sick and you don't stay home and you're not vaccinated, oh yeah, there could be fines, there could be litigation against you, it could be a lot of stuff. Believe me, someone's going to think of all the things out there to hold somebody accountable for being pathogenic. Just like you're trying to hold Monsanto accountable for your diseases, now we can hold each other accountable. Okay? Thanks, Susan. Your situation will better itself. Just keep believing in yourself and just do the J juice and walk away from any kind of crazy ass situation. That's all you can do. I had crazy ass relatives and I walked away, had to leave because, and some of you were around when I had to deal with shit 3 or 4 years ago. And so sometimes you have to deal with some shit so that way you can have some peace. And when you get away from in-laws and family and all the other people's expectation and you create your own life, you'll have a more peaceful life. Sick people will always be in drama, no matter what. Sick people are dramatic. And so it's time for you to now get yourself well so you don't fall into the drama. That's why I keep my circle very close. Most people are very sick out there. I don't want to deal with the drama with sick people. That's why I'm very chill on my own. My dog is very well. I'm very well. My husband, relatively. I can handle his drama. It's not that bad. But I have a lot of people around me who are very sick in so many different ways, full of drama. I don't need that. I like peace in my life. I don't purposely look for drama. But some people do, and they get off on it. I don't. So anyways, all right. So this is interesting. I just wanted to share that what I'm projecting or what I see is going to happen in the future on the heels of Monsanto. And now we're seeing Alex Jones fall and potentially be held accountable for that person's death. And then maybe Aaron from Health Enough News for inferring that the FDA or someone from Big Pharma is murdering all these doctors. And then maybe somebody out there who wants to make a name for themselves, take me on as a client pro bono to go after all of those that basically try to tie me to Bruce Wilmot's death. Oh, yes. So, I'm leaving it open. I have no problem going after Newsweek and Patheos and Daily Mail and BuzzFeed for inferring that I killed Bruce Wilmot when my stuff isn't even antibiotic. I am so willing to do that. So, and the evidence all out there to go read those articles. I mean, Patheos had no problem slandering me. They're like, yeah, the timeline of Bruce's death. And then said, oh yeah, Jillian, in not so many words, was responsible. I'm trying to think of the damages. Was I damaged? Well, I guess if I killed myself, I guess that would be the damages. But what would actually be damaged? What is a slander? Did it hurt me in any way? Well, I mean, it's hard to measure. If I could prove that there was damage done because of their articles, then yeah, I guess there would be a case. But I'm not going to die to prove a point. But the point's there. Those types of media articles and focuses on like slandering someone will fall on the same line that Alex Jones is dealing with. So I'm anxious to see how the case with the whole thing with Alex Jones, how that's going to come out. I'm just trying to figure out what damage was done to me by those articles, aside from, you know, me feeling like a slander. But how does that monetarily hit me? Well, if I could prove that, I would have sold more books if it wasn't for them. But there's no way to prove that. So I don't know. That's something I'll be thinking about. Maybe some of you will think about it too. What damage did those articles do to Jillian specifically? Or is just another example of bullying that Alex Jones did to that guy that committed suicide? Okay. So yeah, this is going to be very interesting. And the anti-vaxxers are going to shoot themselves in the foot. They are. Because, yeah, we're going to be headed towards what they would think is World War II, you know, a Hitler-esque society. But either we're going to move forward as society and humanity and get people to fix their bodies and fix their mutations, or at least have some level of public health to where you're not some walking weapon of mass destruction, or we're going to then degrade into a primal, what is that word? Apocalyptic type of state. It's not going to happen. The government will not allow us to go into complete anarchy. Not going to happen. And I wouldn't want that either. So, the world is very interesting. Keep watch, guys. Remember, when cases get won, they set a precedent. And then when you break everything down to elements, and you break everything down to sick or not sick, pathogenic or not pathogenic, then it doesn't matter if you're anti-vax or pro-vax. It doesn't matter anything. If you're mutated and you're sick, I don't care your politics. You're a weapon of mass destruction, no different than this ruling against Monsanto. You're just as bad as Roundup. Talk to you later. Bye.